shut up and just kiss me." Nia Bankole mumbled the words against the stranger's lips, her fingers tangling in his expensive suit jacket, pulling him closer against the wall outside the nightclub. The Seoul night air was cool, but she felt nothing except the heat of his mouth and the 3 glasses of soju burning through her system. He responded immediately, one hand cupping her face, the other bracing against the brick behind her, kissing her back like he was claiming her. She shouldn't be doing this. He was a stranger, tall, dangerous, impossibly handsome in the neon lights. She barely knew him. This was reckless. This was wrong. But she didn't care. Her fiancé had brazenly cheated on her tonight at Seoul's most exclusive gala, humiliated her in front of 300 people. And this desperate kiss with a beautiful stranger under the city lights, this was her petty revenge. But there was one thing Nia didn't know. The man she was kissing wasn't random. He was Min Yunho, the most feared mafia boss in Seoul, a man who controlled the city's underworld with brutal efficiency. And worse? He was her ex-fiancé's secret half-brother. The kiss that was supposed to help her forget was about to change her life forever. Hello and welcome to Afro-Korean Romance Stories. This is our 10th video and we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Like this video and hit the subscribe button for more stories like this one. 6 weeks earlier, Nia Bankole had believed in fairy tales. She believed in Daniel Min, her narcissistic fiancé who promised her the world while systematically destroying her sense of self-worth. She believed that love meant compromise, that his controlling behavior was just him caring, that the late nights and suspicious phone calls were all in her head. The Shilla Hotel glittered with Seoul's elite that night, a charity gala that drew celebrities, business moguls, and everyone who mattered in Korean high society. Nia moved through the crowd in a stunning gold gown that hugged every curve, her natural hair styled in elegant twists, playing the role of perfect fiancé to Daniel Min, golden boy CEO of Min Corporation, heir to a luxury hotel empire, the man everyone envied. She'd ignored the signs for 2 years. The way Daniel always had his phone face down. How he'd criticize her appearance under the guise of helping her fit into Korean society. The subtle put-downs that left her questioning herself. The controlling demands masked as concern. But tonight, the illusion shattered completely. Daniel, the photographer wants couple photos, Nia had said, searching for her fiancé among the crowd. Someone pointed toward the VIP rooms on the 2nd floor. She climbed the stairs, heels clicking on marble, adjusting her dress, practicing her smile. She opened the door to the private lounge and froze. Daniel had Sophie chin pressed against the wall, the social media influencer's legs wrapped around his waist, their passion leaving no room for misinterpretation. The sounds they made, the way his hands gripped her, this wasn't a momentary lapse. This was familiar. Practiced. Ongoing. Sophie saw her first. Instead of shame, the girl laughed. She really didn't know? Daniel, you said you were going to break up with her weeks ago. Daniel turned, and the expression on his face wasn't apologetic, it was annoyed. Like Nia had interrupted something important rather than caught him destroying their relationship. Nia. He didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed as he set Sophie down, adjusted his suit. Don't make a scene. We'll discuss this privately. Something in Nia snapped. 2 years of making herself smaller, of ignoring her instincts, of believing his gaslighting, it all crystallized into pure, clarifying rage. Discuss what exactly? How long you've been cheating? Whether Sophie knows about the others, or is she special? Her voice carried, sharp and clear. Several people in the hallway turned to look. You're being dramatic, Daniel said, his handsome face twisting with contempt. This is why we're not working. You're too emotional, too insecure. I need someone who understands my needs. The cruelty was breathtaking. Nia had spent 2 years trying to be enough for this man, and he'd spent that time making her feel like she was the problem. You're right about one thing, she said, voice steady despite her shaking hands. She pulled off the engagement ring, 3 carats, princess cut, a cage disguised as a symbol of love, and threw it at his feet. We're not working. We're done. She walked out with her head high, aware of the whispers starting, the phones coming out, the social disaster unfolding. But she didn't care anymore. She just needed to breathe air that didn't smell like Daniel's expensive cologne and lies. Seoul's streets blurred as Nia walked blindly through Gangnam, still in her gala gown, mascara running, chest tight with humiliation and rage. She'd ignored her friends' warnings, her own instincts, the red flags she'd rationalized away. How could she have been so stupid? Her phone buzzed incessantly, texts from concerned colleagues, calls from behind her best friend, notifications of her name trending on Korean social media. She turned it off and kept walking until she found herself outside a high-end nightclub, neon lights reflecting off her gold dress, making her look like she was on fire. Maybe she was. Maybe she'd been burning this whole time and just hadn't noticed. Bad night? The voice came from behind her, deep and smooth with a slight accent. Nia turned to find a man emerging from the club's VIP entrance, tall, probably 6'1", with the kind of face that would stop traffic. Korean, late 30s, wearing an all-black suit that screamed wealth and danger. His dark eyes held intelligence and something else, a predatory awareness that should have made her cautious. Instead, something in her sparked with interest. The worst, she said, surprised she was engaging. She never talked to strangers. Never took risks. But tonight, she was someone different. Someone whose perfect life had just imploded publicly. He moved closer, and she caught expensive cologne mixed with something darker, whiskey, maybe smoke. Want to talk about it? Not particularly. Nia wiped at her face, aware she must look like a disaster. I just needed to walk. He pulled out a handkerchief, actual fabric, monogrammed with the letters MY, and offered it. The gesture was old-fashioned, oddly gentle from someone who radiated such controlled danger. Thank you. She took it, dabbed at her mascara. Do you make a habit of rescuing crying women? Only the interesting ones. His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. You're too beautiful to be crying over someone who doesn't deserve you. You don't know what happened. I know you're standing outside my club in a ball gown at midnight, looking like your world just ended. I know whoever caused that is an idiot. He paused. I also know that sometimes the worst nights lead to the best decisions. There was something magnetic about him, the way he stood, the intensity of his focus, the sense that he saw her completely in a way Daniel never had. Not as an accessory or a problem, but as a person. What's your name? She asked. Does it matter? He echoed her earlier sentiment. No, Nia said, and meant it. I suppose it doesn't. The kiss happened on impulse. She moved first, driven by rage and pain and the desperate need to feel something other than humiliation. She grabbed his lapels and pulled him down, pressing her mouth to his like she was drowning and he was air. He responded immediately, backing her against the building's wall, one hand cupping her face while the other braced above her head. He kissed like he was claiming her, like he was consuming her pain and replacing it with heat. Nothing tentative or controlled, just raw, mutual hunger. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Nia felt alive for the first time in months. Maybe years. I needed that, she whispered against his mouth. Thank you. What's your name? He asked, fingers still tangled in her hair. Does it matter? She was already pulling away, reality crashing back. What was she doing, kissing strangers on the street? This wasn't her. This was. I don't do this. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for taking what you need. But Nia was already backing away, suddenly mortified. She'd just been publicly humiliated by her cheating fiancé, and her response was to make out with a dangerous stranger? What was wrong with her? I have to go, she said, and disappeared into Seoul's neon-lit night before he could respond, leaving him with nothing but his handkerchief and the memory of her taste. Min Yunho stood in the shadows long after she'd gone, touching his lips where she'd kissed him, feeling something he hadn't felt in years, genuine interest. Curiosity. Want. He'd built an empire in Seoul's underworld, drugs, weapons, gambling, smuggling, all while his legitimate half-brother Daniel enjoyed their father's name and approval. Yunho had spent 35 years being unwanted, watching from the shadows while Daniel lived in the spotlight with everything Yunho should have had. He'd been planning revenge for years. waiting for the perfect opportunity to destroy his half-brother's perfect image, to take everything from him the way everything had been taken from Yunho and his mother. Boss? Park Ji-hoon, his enforcer, appeared from the club. Everything all right? Fine. Yunho's voice was controlled, giving nothing away. Find out who that woman was. The one in gold? Yes. By morning, Yunho had a full report. Nia Bankole, 28, Nigerian-British, Oxford-educated, senior marketing executive at a major Korean luxury fashion house. And most interesting of all, until last night, she'd been engaged to Daniel Min. Yunho stared at her photo, remembering the fury in her eyes, the desperation in her kiss, the way she tasted like rage and heartbreak and possibility. She was perfect. Beautiful, accomplished, with legitimate connections to Seoul's business world, and she had every reason to hate Daniel. She was the perfect weapon for his revenge. And the fact that he couldn't stop thinking about that kiss? That was just a complication he'd manage. He'd built an empire on controlling his emotions. One woman wouldn't change that. Even if her kiss had felt like the most honest thing he'd experienced in decades. Nia spent 3 days hiding in her apartment, surviving on ice cream and Kihine's sympathy. Her best friend had tried every approach, righteous anger, practical advice, gentle comfort, but nothing penetrated the fog of humiliation. He's already moved on, Kihine said carefully, showing Nia her phone. Posted this an hour ago. The Instagram photo showed Daniel with Sophie Chen, both smiling at some expensive restaurant, her hand prominently displaying what looked like Nia's engagement ring. The caption, when you know, you know. #blessed #truelove. Less than 3 days. He'd replaced her in less than 3 days. I'm going to be sick, Nia whispered. No, you're going to be magnificent. Kihine gripped her shoulders. You're going back to work tomorrow, you're going to hold your head high, and you're going to show everyone that Daniel Min was the biggest mistake of his pathetic life. Easier said than done. But Nia forced herself to shower, to eat something besides ice cream, to prepare for returning to the real world. The marketing firm was buzzing when she arrived Monday morning. People whispered, shot her sympathetic looks, quickly looked away when she made eye contact. The humiliation was fresh and public, and everyone knew. Nia. Her boss, Director Kim, stopped her in the hallway. Conference room in 10 minutes. We have a new investor joining the board, and he's requested a presentation on our current campaigns. Perfect. Nothing like performing for strangers when her personal life was a dumpster fire. Nia gathered her materials, touched up her makeup, and walked into the conference room with her armor of professionalism fully in place. Then she looked up and froze. The man from that night, the stranger she'd kissed outside the club, sat at the head of the conference table in an expensive charcoal suit, looking like he owned the room. Which, apparently, he now did. Their eyes met. His expression didn't change, but something dark and interested flickered in his gaze. Everyone, this is Min Yunho, CEO of YH Holdings, Director Kim said with obvious nervousness. He's our new primary investor. Min. The same last name as Daniel. Nia's mind raced. Coincidence? Seoul had plenty of mints. But the way he was looking at her suggested this was anything but coincidental. The meeting passed in a blur. Nia presented her campaigns on autopilot, hyper-aware of Yunho's attention tracking her every movement. When it ended and people filed out, he called out, Ms. Bankole, a moment please. Her stomach dropped. Kihine shot her a concerned look before leaving, and then they were alone. Yunho stood, moved around the table with predatory grace, and closed the conference room door. Small world, Nia said, trying for casual and landing somewhere near defensive. Not that small. I had you investigated after our encounter. He leaned against the table, completely at ease. Nia Bankole. Oxford MBA. Brilliant marketing strategist. And until 3 days ago, engaged to Daniel Min. Her spine stiffened. How did you? Seoul is smaller than it seems, especially in certain circles. He moved closer. He humiliated you. Replaced you before the week was out. Doesn't that make you angry? What I feel is none of your business. I disagree. I think it's very much my business. His dark eyes held hers. Daniel and I have history. Complicated, ugly history. And you, Nia Bankole, are going to help me destroy him. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. You're brilliant, you've already realized I'm not just some random investor. You're wondering how I know Daniel, why I care, what I want. Yunho's smile was sharp. I'll tell you. Daniel is my half-brother. Same father, different mothers. Except father chose his mother, legitimate, respectable, Korean. My mother? She was the mistress he kept in the shadows until she died alone and broke. The revelation hit like a punch. Nia studied his face and saw it, the same high cheekbones as Daniel, the same nose, variations on the same handsome features. But where Daniel's face showed entitled arrogance, Yunho's showed controlled violence. He doesn't know you exist, she said slowly. No. Father kept his bastard son a secret. Gave Daniel everything, name, empire, approval, while I built my own kingdom in the dark. His voice was conversational, but fury simmered beneath. And now I'm going to take everything from him. Starting with you. I'm not a weapon you can use. Aren't you? You hate him. You want him to hurt like you hurt. I can give you that. Yunho stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, remember how he'd tasted. Pretend to date me. Let Seoul's elite see you've moved on spectacularly. Help me gather information on his business dealings. In exchange, I'll fund your dream of starting your own marketing agency. Yes, I know about that too, and I'll make sure Daniel sees you thriving. Nia's mind spun. This was insane. Getting involved with someone who clearly had an agenda, who'd admitted he wanted to use her for revenge. But God, she wanted Daniel to hurt. Wanted him to regret choosing Sophie, regret every cruel word, regret taking her for granted. Just business, she heard herself say. Professional revenge. Nothing personal. Yunho's smile was devastating. Of course. Nothing personal. He extended his hand. Nia stared at it, knowing that shaking it meant crossing a line she couldn't uncross. Knowing she was making a deal with someone dangerous. She shook it anyway. His grip was warm, firm, and sent electricity up her arm. We start tonight. There's a gallery opening in Gangnam. I'll send a car for you at 7. I haven't agreed to. Yes, you have. You agreed the moment you walked into this room and didn't run when you recognized me. He released her hand, moved toward the door. We're something that will make him regret everything. I want Daniel to see exactly what he lost. Then he was gone, leaving Nia standing in the conference room, wondering what she'd just agreed to and why her heart was racing with something that felt dangerously like excitement. The gallery opening was everything Yunho promised, exclusive, glittering with Seoul's elite, and the perfect stage for their performance. Nia arrived in a black dress that hugged every curve, her natural hair styled in an elegant twist, looking like a woman who'd moved on spectacularly. Yunho waited at the entrance in a perfectly tailored navy suit, looking like sin and danger wrapped in expensive fabric. When he saw her, something heated flickered in his dark eyes before his expression smoothed into controlled appreciation. You look stunning. He offered his arm like a gentleman, but the way his gaze traveled over her was anything but gentlemanly. All part of the plan, right? Nia said, taking his arm and trying to ignore how solid he felt beneath the fabric. Right. The plan. But the way he said it suggested he was reminding himself as much as confirming to her. They entered together, and the whispers started immediately. Nia Bankole, Daniel Min's humiliated ex-fiancé, on the arm of the mysterious Min Yunho. Phones came out discreetly. Social media would be buzzing within minutes. Smile, Yunho murmured against her ear, his breath warm. Show them you've never been happier. It wasn't hard to smile when he looked at her like that, intense, focused, like she was the only person in the room. Even knowing it was performance, her body responded to his proximity, remembering that kiss, wanting more. They circulated through the gallery, Yunho's hand possessive on her lower back, introducing her as his partner in a way that made it clear he meant more than business. He was charming, attentive, played the role of devoted boyfriend with devastating skill. "You're good at this," Nia observed quietly when they paused before an abstract painting. "At what?" "Making it look real." His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Who says it's not real?" Before she could process that, a familiar voice cut through the moment. "Nia. I didn't expect to see you here." She turned to find Daniel standing 3 feet away, Sophie clinging to his arm like a designer accessory. He looked polished and handsome as always, but Nia was stunned to realize she felt nothing. No heartbreak, no longing. Just mild distaste. "Daniel." Her voice was coolly pleasant. "Sophie. Congratulations on your engagement." Sophie preened, flashing the ring, Nia's ring, she noted with detached amusement. "Thank you. It's all been such a whirlwind. When you know, right?" "Absolutely." Nia leaned into Yunho's side. "Daniel, you remember Min Yunho? My boyfriend." The flicker of shock on Daniel's face was deeply satisfying. "Yunho. I didn't realize you two knew each other." "We met recently," Yunho said, his voice pleasant but his eyes cold. "Nia's been showing me Seoul from a fresh perspective. She's extraordinary." The way he said it, looking at her like she was precious, made Nia's breath catch. For a moment, she forgot they were acting. "Well." Daniel's composure cracked slightly. "I'm glad you've moved on so quickly. No hard feelings, I hope." The audacity was breathtaking. Nia smiled sweetly. "None at all. Actually, I should thank you. If you hadn't been such a spectacular disaster, I never would have found something better." Yunho's hand tightened on her waist in what might have been approval. They left Daniel standing there, visibly unsettled, and Nia felt victorious for the first time since the gala disaster. "That was perfect," Yunho said once they were out of earshot. "You're a natural." "So are you." She looked up at him. "Almost too natural. Do you do this often? Use women for revenge plots?" "You're the first." His honesty surprised her. "And likely the last." "Why me?" "Because you kissed me like you were trying to forget the world. Because you stood up to Daniel without breaking. Because you're brilliant and strong and exactly what I need." He paused. "And because I haven't been able to stop thinking about that kiss." Her heart raced. "It was just adrenaline." "Was it?" His dark eyes held hers, and the challenge was clear. Before Nia could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, expression hardening. "I need to handle something. Business. My driver will take you home." "What kind of business?" She'd researched him after their meeting, found the same rumors Kahind had warned her about: criminal empire, drug trafficking, violence. The kind you don't ask about. He signaled to someone across the room. "Go home, Nia. I'll call you tomorrow." He was gone before she could argue, moving through the crowd with predatory purpose, his entire demeanor shifting from charming boyfriend to something far more dangerous. Watching him leave, Nia realized she was in much deeper than a simple revenge plot. She was falling for a man who'd admitted he was using her. A man whose business was violence and crime. A man who looked at her like she mattered but refused to let her fully in. This was either the bravest or stupidest thing she'd ever done. Maybe both. Over the next 6 weeks, Nia fell into a routine that felt surreal. Public dates with Yunho where they played the perfect couple, art galleries, expensive restaurants, charity functions. Every appearance carefully calculated to ensure Daniel and Sophie would see or hear about it. But somewhere between the performance and reality, lines blurred. Yunho's texts evolved from logistical planning to good morning messages. His gifts shifted from strategic, jewelry that would photograph well, to personal, books she'd mentioned wanting, coffee from her favorite shop, flowers native to Nigeria. He remembered everything she told him. Asked intelligent questions about her work. Made her laugh with dry observations about Seoul's elite. And when she'd had a terrible day dealing with condescending colleagues, he showed up at her apartment with Thai food and simply listened. "This isn't part of the plan," she said one evening, curled on her couch while he sat in her armchair, both of them comfortable in a way that felt dangerous. "What isn't?" "This. You being nice. Thoughtful. It makes it harder to remember this is fake." Yunho was quiet for a long moment. What if it's not entirely fake? Her breath caught. "Don't do that. Don't make this complicated. It's been complicated since you kissed me outside my club." He stood, moved toward her door. "Get some sleep, Nia. We have the Min Corporation anniversary gala tomorrow night." "Yunho. I know. Just business. Nothing personal." But the way he looked at her before leaving suggested he was lying to himself as much as to her. The Min Corporation anniversary gala was massive, 500 guests, Seoul's most powerful families, politicians, celebrities. Min Tae-won, Daniel and Yunho's father, was celebrating 30 years of business success, though everyone knew the empire was built on much darker foundations. Yunho had secured invitations through his legitimate business front. When he arrived to pick up Nia, wearing a black tuxedo that made him look like every dark fantasy she'd ever had, she nearly forgot to breathe. "You clean up well," she managed. "So do you." His eyes traveled over her deep blue gown slowly, appreciatively. "Though I prefer you in gold. Like that first night. You remember what I was wearing?" "I remember everything about that night." He offered his arm. "Ready to beard the lion in his den?" The gala was everything Daniel's events always were, ostentatious, designed to impress, full of people performing wealth and status. Nia spotted Daniel and Sophie holding court, looking picture-perfect for the cameras. She also spotted an older Korean man who had to be Min Tae-won. He had Daniel's features but harder, colder, carved by decades of ruthless business dealings. "That's father," Yunho confirmed, following her gaze. "He doesn't know I exist. Doesn't know his illegitimate son is here, watching, planning." The pain beneath his controlled voice made Nia's chest ache. She squeezed his hand. "Are you okay?" "I'm perfect. Everything's going according to plan." But she heard the lie. They navigated the gala carefully, Yunho introducing her to business associates, playing his role flawlessly. Then Daniel found them during cocktail hour, Sophie conspicuously absent. "Nia. Can we talk privately?" "We have nothing to discuss," she said coolly. "Please. 5 minutes." Daniel looked almost desperate, which was unlike him. Yunho's hand tightened on her waist possessively. The lady said no. "This doesn't concern you," Daniel snapped, showing his true colors. "Everything concerning Nia concerns me." Yunho's voice dropped to something dangerous. "Walk away, Daniel. While you still can." The threat was clear. Daniel looked between them, something clicking in his expression, recognition maybe, or suspicion. "Who are you really? You're not just some investor. I'm exactly who I say I am. Now leave before I make you." Security started drifting closer, sensing potential conflict. Daniel retreated with poor grace, but not before shooting Nia a look of pure venom. "That was intense," she breathed. "He won't bother you again tonight." Yunho steered her toward the terrace. "I need air. Come with me." Outside, the Seoul night was cool and bright with city lights. They stood at the railing, tension crackling between them. "When this is over," Yunho said quietly, "when I've destroyed Daniel and gotten my revenge, what happens to us?" "There is no us. That was the deal." "Right. The deal." He turned to face her, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath stop. "Except I can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop wanting you. Can't stop imagining a future I have no right to want. Yunho. I'm falling for you, Nia. Have been since that first kiss. Maybe before. And I know it's the worst possible timing and I'm the worst possible choice, but I can't pretend anymore." This was the moment. The choice. Nia could walk away, protect her heart, end this before it got messy. Instead, she kissed him. It was different from that first desperate kiss, slower, deeper, full of everything they'd been holding back for weeks. His hands cupped her face like she was precious, her fingers tangled in his hair, and the world fell away until there was only them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Yunho pressed his forehead to hers. This changes everything. I know. I'm still a criminal. Still dangerous. Still planning to destroy my half-brother. I know that too. And you're still choosing this? I'm terrified, she admitted. But yes. I'm choosing this. They left the gala early, ended up at Yunho's penthouse overlooking the Han River. What followed was intense and passionate and nothing like Mia had experienced with Daniel. Yunho was demanding but attentive, rough but careful, and when he looked at her afterward like she was the most important thing in his world, she believed him. I love you, he said in the darkness, the confession raw and unexpected. I love you too. It should have scared her. Instead, it felt like the truest thing she'd ever said. They fell asleep tangled together, and for the first time in months, Mia felt safe. But safety was an illusion. 2 weeks later, Mia's perfect bubble shattered. She'd returned to Yunho's penthouse unexpectedly, needing to grab documents she'd left there. The door to his study was ajar, and she heard voices, Yunho and Park Ji-hoon, his enforcer. The plan is working perfectly, Ji-hoon said. Daniel is unraveling. His engagement to Sophie is falling apart, his business is struggling with the information we've leaked, and seeing you with his ex-fiancée is destroying him. When do we move to the final phase? Mia froze in the hallway, blood turning to ice. Soon, Yunho's voice responded. Once I've gathered enough evidence of his financial fraud, I'll release everything to the authorities and media. Min Corporation will collapse, father will finally see Daniel for the failure he is, and I'll take everything. And the woman? Mia. A pause that felt like eternity. Then Yunho's voice, cold and controlled, she was always part of the plan. The perfect weapon. When this is over. Mia didn't wait to hear the rest. She backed away silently, grabbed her purse, and left the penthouse, heart shattering with every step. She'd been so stupid. He'd said it from the beginning, she was part of his revenge. She'd just let herself believe the tenderness was real, that the love confessions meant something. But she was just a weapon. A tool. A means to an end. By the time she reached her apartment, rage had replaced heartbreak. She called Kehind, who arrived within the hour, and together they uncovered everything, Yunho's criminal empire, his years-long vendetta against Daniel, the calculated precision with which he'd orchestrated their entire relationship. I'm so sorry, Kehind whispered, holding her while she cried. But Mia was done crying over men who used her. When Yunho showed up at her door that evening, probably having realized she'd overheard, she let him in. Let him see her fury. Which brought them to now, standing in his penthouse, the confrontation that had started this story finally reaching its breaking point. Was any of it real? She demanded again. It started as revenge, he repeated, and Mia saw him make a choice. Saw him decide that protecting her from his darkness was more important than keeping her. You were part of the plan. An effective part. But just a part. The lie landed like he intended, devastating and final. Mia slapped him hard enough that his head turned. I hope your revenge keeps you warm at night. We're done. She walked out, and this time, Yunho let her go. Told himself it was for the best. That she deserved better than a criminal obsessed with destroying his own brother. It was the biggest mistake of his life. 3 weeks passed in misery. Mia threw herself into work, started the preliminary plans for her own agency, and tried to forget. Yunho successfully destroyed Daniel, released evidence of financial fraud to authorities, watched Min Corporation's stock plummet, saw his half-brother face criminal charges. He should have felt victorious. Instead, he felt hollow. Then Daniel, facing ruin and consumed by narcissistic rage, discovered the truth about Yunho. Discovered that his mysterious half-brother had orchestrated everything, that Mia had been caught in the middle. And Daniel decided if he was going down, he'd take them both with him. Mia was working late when they grabbed her, 3 men with weapons, professional and brutal. They dragged her into a van, drove to an abandoned warehouse, tied her to a chair. Daniel appeared an hour later, looking unhinged. You ruined my life. Both of you. You ruined your own life, Nia said, refusing to show fear despite her racing heart. Yunho will come for you. And when he does, I'll destroy him. He won't come. We're not together anymore. Daniel's smile was cruel. Oh, he'll come. I've seen how he looks at you. He'll come, and I'll finally win. But Daniel had miscalculated. Because when Yunho got the message, come alone or she dies, he didn't hesitate. He mobilized his entire criminal organization. Called in every favor, assembled every enforcer, and descended on that warehouse like the wrath of God. The rescue was brutal and efficient. Yunho moved through Daniel's hired thugs like death itself, and when he found Nia tied to that chair, bloodied but alive, something in his chest cracked open. I'm here, he said, cutting her bonds with shaking hands. You're safe. I've got you. Why did you come? Her voice was hoarse. The plan worked. You destroyed him. Because I love you. The words ripped out of him, raw and honest. Because none of it matters without you. Because I lied when I said you were just part of the plan. You were never just anything. Daniel chose that moment to appear, gun in hand, face twisted with rage. You took everything from me. Yunho moved in front of Nia without thinking, shielding her with his body. You took everything from yourself. I just helped you fall. The standoff lasted seconds before Yunho's men arrived, disarmed Daniel, and ended the threat. But Yunho didn't move, didn't stop shielding Nia until he was certain she was safe. Later, after the police were called, after Daniel was arrested, after everything settled, Yunho and Nia sat in his car outside her apartment. I lied to you, he said quietly. When I said you were just part of the plan. The truth is you stopped being part of any plan the moment I kissed you back that first night. Everything after was me falling in love and being too afraid to admit it. Why were you afraid? Because my mother loved completely and it destroyed her. Because I built my life on control and revenge and you made me want something different. Because loving you felt like weakness. And now? Now I know loving you is the bravest thing I've ever done. He took her hand. I can't change what I am, Nia. I'm still a criminal who's done terrible things. But I can change what I do with that. I can be better. For you. If you'll let me. Nia looked at this dangerous, complicated man who'd rescued her without hesitation, who'd protected her with his own body, who was offering her honesty instead of pretty lies. I need time, she said. To heal. To trust again. To figure out if loving you is brave or stupid. Take all the time you need. I'll wait. 6 months later, Nia stood at her own marketing agency's opening night, watching her dream become reality. Yunho had kept his distance, respecting her need for space. But he'd shown his love through actions, anonymous funding for her agency until she discovered it was him, discreet security she pretended not to notice, small gifts that showed he remembered everything. He'd also begun legitimizing parts of his empire, slowly extracting himself from the worst of his operations. Not completely, he was still dangerous, still powerful, but trying to be better. When she saw him standing at the back of her opening event, looking at her with pride and love and patience, Nia made her choice. She crossed the room, took his hand, and said, I choose you. Every complicated, dangerous, honest part of you. I choose us. Yunho pulled her close, pressed his forehead to hers. I'll spend my life proving I'm worth that choice. You already have. Their kiss tasted like second chances and hard-won trust and a future neither had planned but both desperately wanted. Because sometimes love doesn't follow the script. Sometimes it starts with revenge and ends with redemption. Sometimes the weapon becomes the reason. Sometimes the criminal becomes the hero. And sometimes, the kiss that was meant to help you forget becomes the kiss you'll remember forever. If you enjoyed Nia and Yunho's story, please like this video and hit that subscribe button for more Afro-Korean romance stories. Drop a comment telling us, would you choose love with someone dangerous, or play it safe? We love hearing from you, and we'll see you in the next story.